Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome on BlackBridge Alliance. Today, we're hosting Salim, a Moroccan investor working at one of the biggest institutional investors in the world in New York. You've joined us today to explore how global investors can better understand the opportunities in African markets and move beyond outdated perceptions.
Good morning, Yassine. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right in. We often see investors navigating complex and high-risk environments, whether in emerging industries or volatile financial markets. Yet when it comes to Africa, a region where governance frameworks are strengthening and innovation is accelerating, there's still a degree of hesitation. Why do you think that is?
You're spot on. It's a great question. A lot of it comes down to perception versus reality. Some investors rely on old narratives rather than looking at the data, which actually shows significant progress across many African economies. The challenge is the fundamentals, but also the mindset.
Right, and beyond the data, what do you think holds investors back the most? Is it about trust, a need for more structural guarantees?
You're absolutely right. Fragmentation is a huge issue. Each country in Africa has its own regulatory environment, its own economic priorities. So even when a country like Kenya or Senegal starts to shine, replicating that success across the region is, incredibly complex. It's a coordination issue. And also, trust definitely plays a role. Large institutional investors in particular need to feel confident about regulatory stability and governance frameworks. But the landscape is evolving. Take Morocco, for example.
Yes, Morocco, for instance.
Exactly. Morocco is positioning itself as a strategic hub for South-South cooperation in Africa. This isn't just about ambition. It's backed by real policy shifts and infrastructure development. The key now is ensuring that investors see and engage with this momentum.
And that's what's wild to me. Investors are looking at this incredible progress and still holding back. Is it just fragmentation? I mean, if you find potential in one country, scaling regionally could be a challenge, right?
Exactly. Infrastructure, or the lack of it, is a real barrier. But it's not just about roads or ports. It's also about, fragmented regulations across different markets. So even if Morocco is making strides, scaling that success across the continent takes serious coordination.
That's fair. But I keep thinking, if infrastructure and regulation are obstacles, why hasn't trust building been more of a focus? Like, isn't trust maybe, a bigger factor here?
It is. Trust is everything. And that's where platforms like BlackBridge Alliance, come into play. They're bridging gaps. They offer transparency in ways that institutional investors need. Without trust, you don't move to action.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I saw something on my last visit to Ghana, a small food processor that went from tiny local operations to exporting internationally. But the obstacles they had to overcome, just unreal.
Unreal is right. And that's the thing. African entrepreneurs are remarkably resilient. They're building and innovating despite, limited support. Yet the investors want guarantees. And guess what? Innovation doesn't come with guarantees. It's always a bit of a gamble.
Right, and they're missing the bigger picture. I mean, Africa has the world's youngest population, untapped markets. It's all there if you look.
Exactly. Those who get that, they're playing the long game and cashing in. But here's where it gets tricky. Convincing the rest, it takes time.
Speaking of overcoming barriers, Fintech seems like one of those solutions that could really build trust while tackling fragmentation. I mean, we've got examples like M-Pesa in Kenya proving what's possible. But do you think Fintech is actually delivering on its promise across the continent?
Short answer? Yes, but with caveats. I mean, look at it. M-Pesa didn't just revolutionize payments, it built financial ecosystems. People gained access to savings, credit, investments, all through their phones. And that level of access, it's a game changer.
But Kenya's story isn't universal, is it? Scaling that success, it's not as simple as copy-pasting the same model into Nigeria or South Africa.
No, not at all. And that's where things get tricky. Each market in Africa is unique. You've got different regulations, diverse infrastructure challenges, even differences in how people use money. Scaling fintech takes, more than just great tech. It demands strategy, partnerships, and patience.
And yet, you can't deny the impact. For decades, African populations were, excluded from formal financial systems. Now we've got individuals saving, borrowing, building capital, all on their phones. That's massive.
Massive, yes. And it's not just individuals. SMEs, the backbone of most African economies, are, benefiting. Fintech gives them tools to scale, access microloans, tap into markets that were previously off limits. It's a lifeline for entrepreneurs.
So the potential is there. But what's holding fintech back from wider adoption? What's the bottleneck?
Two big ones: ecosystem gaps and alignment. Fintech doesn't thrive in a vacuum. You need infrastructure, regulatory clarity, and skilled talent. Right now, those pieces aren't fully aligned in many regions. And that alignment, it's a collaborative effort. Governments, investors, entrepreneurs all need to work together.
Which begs the question, how does blockchain fit into all this? I keep hearing it's the answer to trust issues in African markets.
In many ways, yeah. Blockchain cuts through one of Africa's biggest bottlenecks: trust. It's about transparency, right? Fraud prevention, transaction verification, cross-border payments. It handles these with ease.
But if the benefits are so clear, why aren't we seeing broader blockchain adoption in Africa?
Lack of ecosystem support. Blockchain doesn't run itself. You need infrastructure, regulation, and capital working together, and that's still developing. The demand's there. People want faster, cheaper, secure systems. But turning potential into reality, it's a bigger lift.
Right, but despite the hurdles, fintech and blockchain are laying this, foundation. They're not just about payments. We're talking broader economic transformation over time. Cross-border trade, digital lending, the possibilities seem endless.
Exactly. But to unlock that, it takes vision. Investors need to shift their mindset. Instead of asking, is this risky? They should be asking, what happens if we get it right? That's where the real opportunity lies.
So, building on that idea of shifting mindsets, let's talk about one of the elephants in the room: market fragmentation. We've discussed how collaboration is key, but isn't fragmentation like one of the biggest obstacles holding back investment on the continent?
It definitely is. Fragmentation, whether it's infrastructure, regulation, or even market systems, it makes scaling incredibly tough. An investor can see fantastic opportunities in one region, but expanding that success across borders? That's where challenges multiply fast.
And that's exactly what platforms like BlackBridge Alliance are trying to tackle, isn't it? They're bridging those gaps, creating cohesion.
Yeah, they are. What they're doing is aligning actors, regulators, investors, and entrepreneurs to standardize processes and build trust. Without that trust and consistency, fragmentation just remains a roadblock.
Trust keeps coming up, right? But I keep asking myself, can this one-size-fits-all approach ever work? I mean, every market in Africa is so distinct.
It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, nor should it be. The key is tailored strategies. You need to understand the nuances: local economies, cultural factors, regulations. Every detail matters. Success in Nigeria isn't going to look the same as in Rwanda, for example.
So here's where it gets interesting. ESG investments. They're often pitched as the solution to align profitability with sustainability. But is it working in Africa? Or is it just another buzzword?
Oh, it's working. ESG isn't just feel-good talk. It's a strategy that delivers results. Take renewable energy. Africa's solar and wind potentials are among the best in the world. Off-grid solar systems, they're bringing power to regions that conventional grids can't reach, and investors are finding real profitability in these models.
So investing in Africa's renewable projects, it's not charity, it's smart business.
Exactly. It's smart and sustainable. These projects don't just run on goodwill, they're driving long-term economic stability. And that's critical if we're talking about Africa's trajectory to becoming a global economic powerhouse.
But why are we still hearing the same concerns? Too risky? Too uncertain? I mean, how do we fundamentally shift that mindset in the investment community?
By shifting the narrative. Investors need to stop asking, what if we fail, and start asking, what if we succeed? Africa isn't waiting anymore. The talent, the energy, the resources, it's all here. What's missing is commitment, the kind that's patient and forward-thinking.
I like that. A shift from fear to vision, because at the end of the day, Africa isn't just a market, it's a movement. If we align the right systems, the potential impact is global.
Absolutely. And for the investors who step up, they won't just see financial returns. They'll be part of something transformative, something that reshapes economies and lives.
And how important are local talents in this equation? I mean, Africa's youth is often talked about as a strength, but what's, the real potential there?
They're not just a strength. They are the backbone of Africa's future. Think about it, Yazid. Africa has the youngest population in the world. These are bright, ambitious minds that are tapping into technology, driving innovation, and finding solutions to challenges that others couldn't even begin to answer. But, and this is key, they need the right tools, the education, the funding, and the platforms to thrive. That's where initiatives like BlackBridge come in.
Right, because it's not just about opportunities existing, but giving people the means to seize them, creating a foundation for long-term impact.
Exactly. You can't build an economy on external support or short-term thinking. Sustainability comes from empowering people on the ground to own their future. And this isn't just theory. We're already seeing young Africans leading the way in sectors like fintech, renewable energy, and even AI. We're at the tipping point where, if nurtured, this momentum could redefine Africa's global role entirely.
Let's talk about a key player that's often overlooked, the African diaspora. We know they play a major role in remittances, but could they also become a more structured investment force on the continent?
Absolutely. The African diaspora sends billions of dollars home every year. But beyond that, we're seeing a new generation of investors from the diaspora who want to do more. They're moving beyond just supporting their families. They want to be part of Africa's economic development.
So it's a mindset shift?
Exactly. Today, investment funds, angel investors, and even crowdfunding platforms are tapping into the diaspora's interest in African ventures. We're seeing it in sectors like fintech, real estate, and agriculture. These investors bring not just capital, but also expertise, networks, and a long-term vision, something traditional investors often lack.
But what's still holding them back from engaging at scale?
Structure. Many diaspora members want to invest, but don't always know how. They need the right financial vehicles, reliable platforms, and a regulatory framework that gives them confidence. That's where initiatives like BlackBridge Alliance can play a key role, by creating bridges between diaspora capital and opportunities on the continent.
So there's a massive and huge potential waiting to be better channeled?
Exactly. The diaspora is a natural bridge between Africa and the rest of the world. By structuring their financial engagement more effectively, we can unlock incredible growth across the continent.
Yes, absolutely. So before we wrap this up, what's the one key takeaway our listeners should leave with on this journey?
Simple. Africa isn't a risk. It's an opportunity for reliable partners and its people. The African diaspora can also play a key role. This is an opportunity of a generation. The future is here, and those who are ready to commit, they won't just reap rewards, they'll help shape history.
And on that uplifting note, we'll leave it there. Salim, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you for all the insights on BlackBridge Alliance and for challenging how we think about investments in Africa.
Thank you, Yasin. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, Africa isn't waiting, and neither should you. Thanks for joining us on this episode of My Commitment to Africa. Until next time.